That to me is what a real man does. I know in the last episode I said that same thing, and I think in America today we need more men that are willing to stand up and be proud of being men, right?
So Lex, I don't want to ask you a direct question, but how about you tell us about your story?
Where I came from, who I am, how I met you. I was thinking about how Kelcey said praying for your spouse. I loved how you said that, because I was thinking about that this week, that I did the same thing. I was taught that growing up, that you need to pray for your spouse. It's one of the most important decisions you're going to make. And so I played fast pitch softball my whole life from 5 till 18. And so I learned a lot of really, really good just life skills and attributes from playing.
Were you good at it?
Was I good at it? I just kept playing. I don't know.
She's way humble. She's like all-state, state champion, 3 out of 4 high school years. All-state is a second baseman, by the way.
Wow.
And MVP.
Wow.
As a second baseman. Usually it's pitcher, catcher. So, yeah, and full ride scholarship.
He likes this story.
So
That's awesome.
you were a
She'll never
badass.
tell anybody, so I got to tell people because
Well,
I think it's pretty cool.
That is cool.
Yeah.
it was a great childhood. And honestly, I look back at my kids or look back and think of my kids now. My kids are like, I'm bored with this. I want to move on to something else. And I didn't even think of like doing something different, but I did love it. And I think as you continue to do something and get good at it and keep winning championships, and I traveled all over. When we were just in Texas, I was like, oh, I was here when I was 14 and took, 14th in the nation, or like, it was just a really great childhood. And my parents, I don't even know how they afforded to put all 4 of us into sports year round, but they knew it was important. So played fast pitch softball, and that was my dream, was to move on. Well, it kind of feels like the next step, right? Like you play your whole life and then you get a full ride scholarship. So that seems like the natural next step is to go on to play to college. But what ended up happening is I started writing Brandon on his mission. Can I tell the cute story?
Sure.
You
Okay.
got an envelope with a kiss on as a seal and
Yes,
stuff.
with lipstick. Well, what happened was he sent home a letter. He'd been on his mission 1 year, and he sent home a letter that was just like one letter. He copied it on like Christmas paper. Where did you get this Christmas paper?
I was creative. This is
December of
1999.
98. You came home in 99.
That's right. Yeah.
December 98. So he just
Did
like,
they even make computers back then?
did you
No, I
type?
think I
Where did you?
wrote it.
Yeah,
I
it's-
typed it.
It's typed. I have it still.
Typed on a typewriter.
It's on a typewriter.
On a
I
typewriter.
think we had access to a computer. So
Okay, it's on
Yeah.
Christmas paper. I don't
Wow.
know. From Elder Neil, and it was very sweet. And I was just sitting on my parents' counter because he kind of wrote this generic letter just saying, this is how I'm doing, going great. And he just like mailed it to like any family that
He's trying to be
support it.
efficient. If I could type one letter and send it
Well,
to 15 people.
And
it's
when you're a
like-
missionary, you want stuff in return, right? So
You want
you're kind of being
Packages
selfish.
sent back to you.
You're like, hey, if you feel, so I always put a little PSA, if you feel free to send any goodies,
And I fell for it. I was reading this letter and teared up a little bit because it was very sweet.
Didn't
And
know I'd get a wife out of it.
Dang, man, that was a good letter.
I'll have you guys read it over. You guys tell me. I just remember feeling like at the bottom where it said, feel free to send me any, what did you say? Any treats in return.
Yeah.
So I decided I'm going to make him Christmas cookies and I'm going to mail them to him. And so I did. I was 17 and no, I was 16. Was I 16?
Yeah.
I was 16 and I made him Christmas cookies and frosted them and mailed them to him and wrote him a letter. And he wrote me back, and we ended up writing every week for the next year of his
I had
life.
a rule. Anytime somebody wrote me, I always wrote them back.
Yeah.
I think that was her rule too, because she just kept.
She just kept going.
So Jersey
thought
starts
you-
making cookies after this conference, and you're gonna be all
Knows
right,
them
Brandon.
all.
I mean, you got a 16-year-old now.
Almost, yeah.
She could end up with a husband after making cookies.
That does scare me.
At 18. At 18. Oh my gosh. So anyway, we wrote for the last year. So then as he's coming home from his mission, it's like, are we dating? Like, what's happening? When he comes home, we didn't know. So he came home and we went on a date 2 days later. Yep, 2 days later. And then at this time, I had already signed my scholarship papers. Like, I'm going off to, now it's BYU, Idaho, but I was going off to school. And then he comes home. We start dating over the next few months, like getting more and more serious. And by summertime, he's like, we got to get married. Like, I'm, ready to get married. And so I end up calling my coach and saying I'm not coming to school. And I just, so that kind of set us off on a different trajectory, because he was like, I don't want to follow you up there. And I was just kind of doing it because that was what I felt like was the next step. I didn't necessarily, that was like my dream to go and play, but my parents were surely not the happiest about it. They handled it like champs. Honestly, they did. Like, looking back, was probably their dream. That's why they put all this time and effort and energy into their child. And then it seems like this perfect scenario. And I say, never mind, I'm going to marry this dude over here at 18. So that's what
Don't
ended
you
up
think,
happening.
looking back though on your life now, a lot of the principles you learned from playing softball helped you in business and life and succeed?
Absolutely. Very much so.
What do you think are some of the biggest lessons you learned from playing softball that helped you in?
Consistency and dedication, and continuing on when, things get hard and difficult.
Building a team, you had a great coach.
I did. I had great coaches, honestly, great coaches. With my summer league team and also in high school, our high school coach did a ton of team building and life lessons, tons of life lessons from him. We'd go up and hit pitches for hours from him. He had a pitching machine in his backyard, and we'd go there for hours and hit. And then, as he'd come out and say hi, and then give us a awesome, life lesson. And then
Think about that foundation that built. We didn't see it at the time. Your parents definitely didn't see it at the time either, and I understand why. And then we spent all this time and money for softball, but then it set us up for what we were able to do.
Yes, not realizing that those other things were actually what I was learning, instead of going on and just playing in college.
Yeah, I feel like that's another one of those prayers that are answered. They're answered. We just don't see how it's answered.
Right.
I'm sure at that time your parents are praying. You're going this time. You're starting to date Brandon. I'm sure they're starting to pray for you and your guys' future together. And then all of a sudden you make this huge life change that comes out of left field, pun intended. And they had no idea it was coming, and then all of a sudden you change. But now, them seeing your guys' life that you built together, they're probably, they couldn't be more proud, I'm sure.
Right. Yeah. And the many things we were able to do together, we took them on a lot of trips and did so many things. And my dad, and both of them, so many times have been like, just known that was exactly what needed to happen. But they really did handle it very well. I do think something that was great about my parents, that they were amazing, and they also were not perfect. And I knew that. Like, I did not have this, I saw a lot of mistakes that they made. And so I knew, and they were always great. Like, when I made mistakes, that they were very understanding, never freaked out. I cannot remember a time that my parents ever lost it, and just didn't know how to handle it and treat me well, even if what I was doing wasn't, the best choice. So I think they handled that very well.
Yeah.
I think you definitely learned that from your parents.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Kelsey mentions that all the time.
All
because
the time.
I'm definitely not that person.
No, me either. But like I said, what would Lexee do? You're so calm in situations I would lose it. And you're just like, oh, it's okay. And I'm like, you're such a good mom. Like, how do you have patience?
That explains a lot, though. You learned that from
Yeah,
your
your
parents. We seriously have talked about this.
did.
This is the first time we ever said something. And it's being recorded, but we've said something so many times, Lexee, about
She's
last time we were at your house. I don't know what happened, but something happened, and one of the kids said something, and we laughed, and I was like,
she handled that so
how did
well.
she handle that? So I think I would have lost my mind.
So we've learned a lot.
Oh my gosh. Well, I was thinking about that because Kelsey has mentioned that to me before. It's so funny. But I really am not a yeller. Naturally, I'm just not. I didn't come from a home with yelling, and I have other issues. I probably don't talk enough, that's taken me a long time. Actually, with even me and him in our marriage, being open and talking about things. I would rather be like, okay, I'm good, I'll just move on, instead of talking about it. But with my children, so I do think I kind of have that natural just calmness, but I really do try to keep an eternal perspective at all times.
Yeah.
Like, does this tantrum they're having right now really matter? Like, it's usually what happens, we're worried about us, right? Like, we're worried that, oh my gosh, you're being a pain, which is hard for me. Instead of like, something's going on with them right now. And it's probably not this exact thing that's happening. They're worried about something else.
It's the way they're expressing it.
Yes, they have a worry that they haven't told me about, or that they have, and we need to talk it through more. And so I think taking that extra time and sitting down with them and go, okay, what's going on? Instead of just yelling at them, be quiet because I'm busy or whatever. There's something else going on, and to not worry about me and just go, okay, they're a human being as well. I'm their parent, which I still have to teach them and train them, but I'm not above them as far as like, I need to get down eye to eye and have a conversation and figure out what the deal is.
I think that's a good leadership lesson in general,
Yeah.
right? Not only with children, but with people.
Right.
Like so often in business, right? Especially in the kind of business we are in, people will be seeking attention in all different ways. And you never know, but the way they're seeking attention usually isn't the thing that they desire. They just don't know how to express their
They're
emotions.
acting out. Yeah.
Yeah. And so they do stuff. And in a business, you're like, what the heck? You just get frustrated rather than, what are they trying to get? What is the real reason? I think it's a good lesson.
Yeah.
For sure. For sure. So talk about just kind
Certain
of
biz.
Yeah, like what happened before that way. Yeah, starting the biz, and then us moving down here, and just some of the things that happened and transpired there too. Because there's some pretty cool things I think that kind of
That happened.
Yeah.
You'll have to remind me. Some of the
Yeah,
things
I
you're
can
remembering, he always talks about my memory, which I do remember everything, it feels like, but you're remembering some
She
stuff.
remembers all the bad stuff. For sure.
I know. I think that's a
not
benefit
true.
of most men is we forget the stuff that hurts.
Yeah.
Right. The painful.
That is true. That's another thing that's like, that is a good quality that he does forget. He moves on pretty quick.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't remember all the bad stuff. I remember a lot of the good. I feel like memories are what like make me tick. Like that is what I care about.
Yeah.
Like I don't care to go to the beach. Like I was saying, like Jersey wants to go to the beach. I will go so she can have a good memory. I don't go because I want to have fun.
Right.
I really don't. Like it makes me tick. It's got to be a deeper connection than that for me. But what was my point? I don't know.
Point was
I remember stuff, but
times you went through because we moved because you guys moved. That was kind of this thing that we related to. You
we
guys
started
moved.
up in northern Utah.
Yep.
That's where we started, and we were up there, and you had a job.
well, what happened was I couldn't get a job, and I don't.
Well, first we were both
No,
working at
even when we were
Discover
first. I know you got me the job at Discover Card. Do you remember?
Card. Yeah, I did. That's right.
I don't know what happened,
You're
but
unemployable.
I guess so.
That's okay.
Right.
And actually, I'll have to come back to that because it really did a lot to my self-esteem. It honestly did. I'm gonna tear up. So when I decided to homeschool my children, all of these old thoughts are there. Like
back.
you don't know how to do these certain things. Even me not being able to pass my tests. Like all these things are
You can't get a job. You can't.
Yeah.
like you're dumb.
Right.
You're not.
So I think this is important. So what I'm hearing you say is that as you grow up and you hear this, go to school, get good grades, get an education, get a good job. You did all that. You worked hard, athlete, get out. Then you go get a job and you can't get a job. And that makes you feel like you're less of a person, I guess, because everybody told you that's what you're supposed to do.
Right. And luckily I didn't go to the college thing.
Yeah.
I'm actually very, very grateful for that.
Yeah.
Which we can talk more about that as well. But it did a lot. Like I was, okay, we're going to get married. I had never worked because I had played softball year round. It's what I did. So I never had a regular job. So even when I was 17, 18, and then when you're getting married at 18, I just hadn't worked. And so I go try to get a job and I cannot get hired anywhere. And I don't know what I'm saying in the interview. I don't know what I'm doing. Brianna thinks I'm too honest. Like, I don't know if I'll be a good employee.
Because you have you have charisma. You have great people skills, and you always have. It's not that you have.
don't
Right?
know.
I seriously think
She's
we're
too
being
honest.
I have no experience in this.
Why should you hire me? I don't know. I'm still wondering the same thing.
Like President Trump, right? I may be good, I may not be good.
I know. So he actually got me hired on at Discover Card. And so we got married in September of 2000, and we're both working at Discover Card. And that in December is when he was approached with Primerica. And you know what? Actually, for months, even when we were dating, people were inviting him. He's a return missionary, which is like a gold mine, right? For like a lot of different things. So he was invited to many meetings. I can't even remember all the different ones. And everyone we went to, it didn't make sense to me. I would sit there and I'm like, I don't understand this. And some of it was internet-based stuff, and the internet really wasn't a thing. And so maybe it was more me not understanding that one day we will buy things on the internet. I was like, why would you go to the internet to buy stuff? I really did. I remember thinking that.
I think everybody thought that at some point from our generation.
Yes, like I'm just going to go to the grocery store to get my groceries. I don't understand.
It was,
But when we went to, we're newly married, just a couple months in, when we went to that meeting, it was the same feeling I had when I knew he was the one to marry, right? That same feeling that was like just this clear picture in my mind to move ahead.
Yeah.
Like it was the right thing to do. And so anyway, we ended up joining, and within a few months, we're like, it's time for you to go full time. Like you went full time within 6 months.
9 months.
9 months?
Yeah.
And so then I was like the breadwinner working at Discover Car with $10 an hour. And
so you went from not being able to get a job to being the only one with a job.
Oh my gosh. Nice, Jeff. I love it.
Yeah, I actually phased out. I was full-time, then I went
Yes,
part-time,
you went part-time.
And then I started coming to St. George. I'm like, okay, I gotta quit. So I quit.
Yes. Okay. And I did the same thing as Kelcey. I made sure that I was at every single meeting from the beginning. I was like, and actually, we actually had to do every other for Saturday trainings, because he went part-time and then I was full-time, but you always had to work as like we would trade off. So one of us would work a Saturday and then the other one would. So someone was always at the Saturday training.
Yep.
And then I started realizing I'm gonna have to run the office, because he got this crazy idea to move to St. George, and out of nowhere, like we didn't have anyone here. We're living 10 minutes away from all of our family. And he started coming down to St. George and just felt like it was the right thing to do. Like,
yeah, I mean, I came down to set up my uncle's
IRAs.
tile business on a simple IRA program. And while I was down here, a guy named Jason Tomlinson was moving here from California from a guy named Steve Cross's base shop. So I made contact with him while I was here. He said, yeah, I want to get Primerica going, but I don't know what I'm doing. I'm brand new. He's got my license. And then there was another guy I ran into that was referred to me from someone up north that I stopped by while I was down here to go see his name was John Pitt. John Pitt was a former regional vice president way back in the A.L. Williams days, back in the 80s.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy's like a legend, you know? And so all that kind of happened. And then I came home and I go, what if we move to St. George? And she said, what?
Yeah.
You know? And that's kind of how it just was a thought that came to my mind. And I go, I think we really should move. And I don't know. It just kind of happened that way.
Yeah.
Right?
So let me ask you guys this, because I think this question, so obviously you guys came to that meeting together first. Brandon, you got started. Lexee, you were still working a job. Brandon, you had gone part-time. Lexee, did you always see it as both of your business? Because, you know, since we've been around, you've always been very involved, and it was just as much yours as it was Brandon's. Is that how it started? Did you guys have that conversation? Was it never a conversation, just kind of happened? How did that process happen?
I don't remember a conversation. I just remember we both were like, this is it, and we're doing this. So
I remember turning to you after that opportunity and going, what do you think? And you go, let's do it. I remember that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, at first, I wasn't like, I'm going to be in the field, right? I was like, this is our business, this is what we're going to do. But I honestly imagined he's going to make $50,000 a year, because that was kind of at first what our thought was. Like, that's a good amount of money. He'll make $50,000 a year. I'll stay home with the kids. And this will be, I did think it would be ours, but that he would be kind of running it. And then he was like, well, you probably better get licensed. And then that's a whole other story of me not being able to just add to my self-esteem spiral of not being able to pass that darn test. I took it 7 times, or I passed on the 7th time. And I took it 5 and I put the books away. I was like, I can't do this. This is not for me. You know, even though I would still want to be a part of the business, I just kind of shut that off. I'm not going to be able to pass this test. And then I got motivated again a few months later and was able to pass it. But I definitely feel like it was ours together from the beginning.
Yeah. Then we moved to St. George, and then you went through the same process again. You tried to find a job.
Tried to find a job again and be an office manager. And I applied to probably 7 or 8 different. I just thought, I'll waitress at night. I'll run the office in the day, and then while he's on appointments, I'll waitress. And I mean, all the little restaurants in town you can think of, I went to and did not get hired by any of them. And so he's like, you know what? I'm going to get crazy and it's going to be so busy, you're not going to be able to work somewhere else.
I think that we kind of had a very similar situation actually too. But I think that right there, Brandon, your response to that, I think that to me is what a real man does. I know in the last episode I said that same thing, and I think in America today we need more men that are willing to stand up and be proud of being men, right? And I think when something happens like that in our lives, us stepping up and saying, you know what, I'm going to create the opportunity. I think it's what a leader does, right? I'll create the opportunity to allow you to do what you desire, right? And that's our job as leaders. I know Kelcey, when we first moved to Boise, she was working at Best Buy and she hated it so bad. She would call me every day and go, you just want me to work a job forever. You hate me.
He programmed me to hate it because every day he'd be like, do you realize you worked this many hours and you only made this? And then after taxes, you're only like, what do you expect? I'm like, I worked.
What she got paid per hour.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm working for nothing. Like, why am I doing this?
Yeah, I just hated I still do. I hate the corporate America system. I don't think it provides great value for families, what they deserve. Some people it does. They actually get more than they deserve, but most people, I think they but yeah, I think the same thing. But I really respect, Brandon, that you did that, because I think if more men in the world went, you know what? Yeah, my wife shouldn't have to work a job so that the streets aren't raising my children. I mean, what if I went out and made more money? What if I did something and got something part-time as well? What if I went, if a guy has a job right now and his wife is, and this is just my perspective and the way I look at my family, but if I have a full-time job and my wife had a full-time job and my kids are, who knows where they're at while my wife's working, I would much rather say, you know what, I'm going to go I'm going to work my job, and then at night, I'm going to start something, and I'm going to get so good at that something that it produces way more money than my wife could have ever made at her job. Yeah. And that way she has the freedom to go raise our children, build our family, or help me in the thing that I'm building, right? If more men would think like that and then deliver on it, I think we would have more people become successful. We'd have more children with families present. Yep. We'd have less mental illness challenges like we see happening with these young kids right now. Yeah. I don't know if you guys know, but even in like school systems right now, they're lowering test scores.
Yes, to make everyone
I'm talking
pass.
to 15%.
Yeah.
Like when I went to school, if you didn't get 59%, you didn't pass. You had to take that class over. Now it's 15%, 1-5.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And they'll let you pass school.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And so they're like, okay, our system didn't work, but we're still going to put you through it because we know it didn't work, but we have to move so many people through it, rather than, hey, what do we do to change the system? I think a lot of that goes back to the parents, though, right? Sure. Are the parents spending time and effort and energy? Because if you spend time with your children, they learn fast.
Well, and to know what's crazy is you jump ahead 20 years to now someone who felt horrible about themselves, and has gone through, I don't know, I just feel like our life, the way it's been led, is now I am home with my children even more than most moms are. And it is the biggest blessing that we could ever, the things I've been able to teach them and share with them, because I had the freedom to study and learn and do all these things and light that fire within me for the education that I want to teach my kids.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a different education than going off to college and that kind of thing. I'm teaching them.
Yeah, because you're highly educated. I think the mistake that I hope people don't hear from you not being able to get a job or having a trouble taking a test is you're highly educated. There are things that you know a tremendous about and have the ability to teach your children those things. But that doesn't relate to success. I've always hated tests because what does a test matter? I mean, most of the stuff that I learned I got good grades in high school, and I never learned anything because I never went, and I still got good grades.
Yeah.
For sure.
See,
I got good grades too, and I had no idea what I was, doing, because it's not set up for that kind of learning.
It isn't set up for success, which is, hey, learn a knowledge or a skill set that you can take and apply it, right? Just because you can.
You don't need a piece of paper saying you know something. What skill do you have? What can you do?
Exactly. Yeah.
No doubt.
So
no doubt. So then you came into the office at age 19?
I turned 20, so we'll be here in St. George 20 years next month, and so I had just turned 20.
Just turned 20, and you were running a business, running the office, running it all.
And when you mean running, what were you doing? Like in the business?
So back then it was all paper, right? We didn't have any, so we started scanning, which was cool, but it was all paper. So everyone dropping off the recruiting and the life apps and the loans, and I'm processing all that paperwork.
Have to file all the paperwork, have to keep it all on record.
But also
All the
meetings, right?
meetings.
Hosting
Running
all
the
the
meetings.
meetings, doing all the conference, or not conference calls,
Like events,
events, recognition, all that kind of stuff that
Yes.
you're, right?
People would come and drop off their life apps. You give them some coaching. Hey, they did have a little bit of bad thinking, and on what was going on. She'd say, "Oh, what are you saying?" And she'd fix it. She's a coach.
Yeah.
Helped a lot of people that way. Right?
Calls with the home office, follow-ups, all that kind of stuff.
Yep, all that stuff.
Yeah.
For sure. Had a few threats from the competition.
Did.
Trying to say, hey, you keep replacing our business.
Yes. Yeah, it was scary. I mean, I was 20 and I didn't, I knew what we were doing, but it's still, you have a 40-year-old man call you and say, stop replacing all of our business. We're going to turn you into the insurance commissioner or something.
And I'm like, products, and I'll stop
Exactly.
replacing it.
Exactly. I think...
I don't think I said that, but I was like,
I'm sure you didn't say
For
that, Lexee,
sure.
but that is what I would have said for sure. And that would have been it still would have been more colorful.
oh my gosh.
Yeah, I just going back to talking about, when your back's against the wall, and you gotta, try to just analyze that a little bit. Why did you make the decision to say, you know what, you just be the office manager. I'm going to get focused. I'm going to deliver, and I'm just trying to really think about that drive. What really that drive? I really truly just loved you so much. That is the honest to goodness truth. There was no way I was going to let you fail. I think you probably felt. So I would challenge anybody who maybe is struggling with that, and maybe you're married, and maybe you need to work on your relationship and your heart.
Your trust in each other.
You're trusting each other and really ask yourself, man, do I really love my spouse? And if you don't, what can you do to love them?
Yeah.
Because I think it's, love is you have to work at it.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's not just a natural thing.
It's an active emotion. It's a verb, not a noun. Yeah.
Right.
It doesn't just happen. It's
So I think, for me, that love was bigger than the fear, or the not want to do it. If that makes sense, So it was almost more exciting than scary. So I'm like, ooh, this is my opportunity. You almost have to have that, I think, at a point in your life to.
It's those choices. The pressure is a privilege choice, right? Jefferson on the last episode was talking about this with his mom. His first employee was his mom. So he knew he couldn't let his company fail because he had just talked his mom into come working for him.
Right. Yeah.
And so I think that, the same thing I know with Kelcey. She's won out of her job so bad. And really, we had enough. I was just scared, to be honest with you. We had enough business.
Yeah.
I was scared. But then when she went all in, I was all in. So it was like kind of, I think in our situation, it was we both went, okay, this is it. We're burning all the bridges. You don't have a job anymore. This is how we're going to do it. This is where we planted our flag. I really think at that moment is when we decided to plant our flag. And that was like we had signed leases, we had moved, we had done all that stuff. But that wasn't, I don't think, our plant the flag moment. I think it was when Kelcey made a decision to quit her job. There's no other option.
Yep.
Yeah.
You have to make it. You have to deliver.
Yeah.
Right.
For sure. And it's almost, you may go with less sleep, but you almost don't even realize it. You're
And you almost
so
don't want it
focused.
at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm listening to Outwitting the Devil again, man. What a good book.
Oh my gosh, that is the best.
Yeah.
And just when you get in that purpose, that clear purpose, there's no stopping you. You're so driven, you're so focused. And I think it unfortunately sometimes takes those moments to get backed into a corner. And it's not like you backed yourselves into that corner. You were moving forward, and it ended up being there so you can make that move. But that definiteness of purpose, right?
Yep.
I think you've got to really work to keep that throughout your life.
For sure.
We recently sold our businesses and sold ours, and I've been like, okay, I've got to reevaluate my purpose here, and it's coming together again, which is exciting. But it was for a minute.
It was a rough minute there.
It's been
I think it's hard for people
transition.
too in general. It's just like the identity. This goes back to another man topic. Sorry. Ladies.
Would you stop?
Right?
I'm just kidding.
But no, I think, I think there is an identity crisis for men in America today. Like, genuinely, I feel like there's that crisis that men don't feel like that they can actually go out and be men and be celebrated to do that. And I feel like that there's points in our lives where we're going to have to make these decisions that make us better, and they're going to be uncomfortable. But when we identify, it all comes back to what we identify as, right? Like I always want to be a great, strong man that my wife is proud of, my children are proud of. And that most importantly, when I spend time with somebody, not the words that I say, that they almost come up to you and go, what is the secret? And then that leads them to a conversation about, hey man, I'm a follower of Christ. So these are the values that I lead my life by, and these values. And then I have the ability to influence someone. And I think for me, one of the things that's always helped me is my identity wasn't in what I did, but who I am, right? Mm-hmm. And what kind of man I want to become, and what kind of man I want to lead other men to become through my example. Mm-hmm. But I think that's hard, right? Yeah. I think for me, growing up in such a crazy environment, I think I had to learn that early on because I was different. I was different than most of the people around me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think we've got our kids, and I think that's our main, we want to influence other people, but our main job is our family, right? Yep. And our kids, and that's our main calling. And if we're doing, I don't care I want my kids to love me. I want them to, but I mostly want them to love themselves. Yeah. So if they love themselves, they'll be great, right? Amen. So they can hate me if they want to, but I want to, and I'm terrible at it. I think sometimes the way I handle situations, definitely not as good as my wife is, I don't think, but they can be mad at me because I discipline them, but I want to discipline them in a way where they're going to go, hey, my dad disciplined me when I was off track here because I need to get on track so I can feel good about me. Yeah. If you just let them do whatever they want and have, playing video games all day or whatever, they're going to grow up probably hating themselves. Yeah. Yeah. I heard a quote early on in us having children. One of our friends who's a pastor, he said, Jeff, can I give you some advice? I said, sure. And he said, if you're friends with your children as they're growing up, when they get older, it'll be too late to discipline them. But if you'll discipline your children when they're younger, as they grow up, you'll be able to become friends. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So and I just never forgot it. I was like, that's so true. Yeah.
The relationship you keep with them is the most important. So I think that no matter what you're doing, that relationship is because they'll come back to you, right? Or they'll come to you as they're needing if you keep the relationship over the... over the end result. But don't you think that's with any relationship in life? And shouldn't that be with all relationships, whether it's with our spouse, with our children, with friends, with people? We don't feel safe about opening up. We're not going to open up, right? We got to feel safe. There isn't a relationship, right? And I think a lot of times because somebody knows somebody or because you know what's going on in somebody's life doesn't mean you have a relationship with them if they don't feel comfortable enough to come to you in time of need, right? Isn't that what a relationship is? It's like someone says, hey, man, I need you. Yeah. And you have to be willing to say, hey, I need you, which takes some humility. Yeah, humility. But I think humility only comes up in people's lives when people give them the ability to. Too. Right? It's not just humility; it's strength. When you ask for help, right? It is, yeah, for sure. I think, empathy. A lot of these qualities is like being a strong father. Isn't this right? Yeah. But more so having the ability to say, like, hey, I understand you're hurt. Sometimes. Right. Life's hard, but here's how you handle it, and here's how you get better through it, and here's how you become stronger through it, not just, you get tough and aggressive through it. I think unfortunately a lot of people think that's what strength is, right? Yep. It's not. Strength is the ability to come through a challenge stronger, right? Yeah. You lift weights to get stronger. You don't cry about it the whole time. Right. It's kind of what Whittle used to always say about a baby. You don't ever meet a lady who has a baby and go, how bad did it hurt? Right. Yeah. You've never heard someone say, what a beautiful baby, right? Yes. You're paying attention to the result. And of course it was painful, but nobody focused on the pain. They focused on the result, but it was all of that made it so much worth it. Yeah. Right? True. It's kind of we could go forever. We'll have to do some more of these, but I would like to just kind of maybe ask one more thing, maybe Jeff, you do too. But just I would kind of, is there any advice advice that you would give to men or women out there when it comes to anything we've talked about today? Whether that be family, business. I was thinking, do you want to go first? Go ahead. Okay. A couple weeks ago, I had to give a lesson on just a story in the Old Testament. And the whole lesson was talking about gratitude. And so I did a study on worldly gratitude and Christian gratitude. And so the Christian gratitude is everything is always giving thanks to God for everything. So you can't be like an unhappy person and be grateful at the same time. But instead of like, I'm so grateful for who I am or what I've become, I'm so grateful for what God has done in my life and what I've become because of him. And so I just, looking back on all of our journey, I'm just have so much gratitude for highs, lows, all of it. Some of the embarrassing things, some of the bad choices that I made, some of the good things, the way I handled situations that I didn't handle as well and then handled better later because I handled it bad the first time and learned from it. And to have so much gratitude to God for the good, the bad, the ugly, and we're still here to talk about it. So
Comes back to that word grace, right? Kelsey said that today to our son, like, hey, give him some grace.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel like
he's so rigid and you have to do it. If it's not this way, it's not right. And I was like, dude, give him some grace. Like, and I know he doesn't really understand what that is, but I'm like, you just need to learn to do that with people because nobody's perfect. You're not perfect. I'm not perfect. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think if you can remember God's grace,
Right.
it's a lot easier to have gratitude, right? Because of how it could have went.
yeah.
Right? So often people think about how it could have. Our daughter the other night in our backyard, we're building this outdoor kitchen, and they're building it out of these metal studs, right? Yep. Anybody that knows when you do construction on metal studs, they're sharp. Like the sheet metal on them is like a razor. Well, my daughter jumped up on it and like slipped and grabbed the end of it and cut 2 of her fingers to the bone. Both of them, all the way to the bone. And she's so strong. She just like didn't hurt. She got stitches. She's fine. She didn't cry, whatever. Well, it hurt.
I mean, it hurt. Yeah, it hurt. Yeah, but she was just so tough.
You would never know. But how about you, Kels? What are some piece of advice you would give to people?
Cole, you're going to make me go after her?
Yeah.
She's like, my lesson.
Gratitude and grace.
You're so polished. I'm like, I think the biggest thing, I mean, I look back and I feel like we have designed our life, but it was so intentional. And so one thing we learned early on was writing down exactly what you want. And it's the same as prayer, right? So you write down what you want, but you also pray to God, what do you want with your life, you know? And versus complaining, that was one thing I learned from a lot of leaders in Primerica, but like you have 2 options. You could be negative about situations or you can find the good in a situation and be positive about a situation. And it's so crazy how your life can shift to the right direction if you just choose to be that person. So one thing I think that just really helped us throughout the years was writing down in exactly how you want your life to be. You know, you always say reverse engineer, right? Okay, here's the end result. And you always talked about that. You know, this is what I want. I want a yacht. I want this. I want, you know, and then what is it going to take to get that? So most people go from the beginning to the end, and you need to start from the end and go backwards and figure out exactly what it is you want and make a plan to achieve that. So I think that's one thing that we always did a good job at a young age because we learned that from a young age. And we still continue to do that, and it still helps our life today.
Yeah, it does blow me away that we only get one chance at life.
Yeah.
And that most people never try to design that life. It's like imagine this. Imagine if you had this piece of land and someone said, "Okay, you get a chance to build a house one time in your life. You only have one house. You're going to put a lot more thought into that if you get to do it once. Well, we only live life once, so why do people just react and not have an actual plan? And yeah, things are going to change because your desires change and all this stuff happens in life. But I don't understand why people go haphazardly through life thinking that it's going to turn out good.
Yeah. Exactly.
Just awareness, right?
Yeah.
To raise the awareness and help people know you can create whatever you want to create.
Yeah.
You know, and I know earlier in this conversation talking about exactly how to do it. At the same time, I'm going to kind of contradict myself a little bit because winning is illogical.
Yeah.
And so much of it is, we've been talking a lot about this, Jeff, recently, is how are we going to do all this stuff we're working on? I don't know. We're just going to say yes and start going.
Yep.
And we don't know how it all works exactly, but we just know we have some good connections and we have good relationships, and we know that if we work together, we'll figure out the best path and the best way, and God willing, it'll all work out.
Do you care if I also just add that you two honestly have been such good examples to us? Your marriage and the way you are with people, and you are. So
oh my gosh, I love you.
So much.
Thank you.
You are, for sure.
Thank
I
you.
love you guys.
No, you guys. That's one thing about Jeff and Kelcey is, from what I've always seen, you've treated each other the way that every married couple should always treat each other, and always telling each other you love each other, and not to be mushy, but just you've been very respectful of each other. I've always watched. I've been very impressed by that. And what I think one of the things that impresses me the most is you didn't necessarily witness that in life before you got to it. So that's even more impressive, I think. So I don't know where you learned that, but I no one teaches you how to be married.
Right.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I mean, we've we're always talking about this, huh? And working on getting better at everything. But you've been examples to us, no question about it. I know you say we've been examples to you.
Yeah.
But you're great examples. Yeah.
Thank you guys. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
That's how it goes. Is pay it forward. I mean, I'm not perfect. Definitely not. Right. I mess up.
We're both
every
She has
day.
tons of patience too. See,
She does have ton, and I am a hard. I think I'm a hard person to put up with.
you know what? She honestly lets you be you, though. You really do. You're
Yeah.
so good.
The one quality that I would say, or the best quality that Jeff has, is loyalty. Like, he's loyal to the end, no matter what, never wavers. And I've learned that, like, dang, like, no matter what, you're gonna make me cry. But yeah, so, and his mom used to always tell me, like, as he gets older, it's going to get better. It's going to get better, because he just, he's just him.
Ornery.
And yeah, if you ask anybody from the past or his family, like, he just was ornery. He was ornery. He had a chip on his shoulder. So I wouldn't say that anymore, but
Yeah, no, I don't have a reason to have a chip on my shoulder anymore.
not anymore. But yeah.
You have evolved.
Yeah.
Well, you're both married to guys that are pretty intense.
Oh, yeah.
And probably overbearing a lot. And so.
We text a lot, so it's fine.
Like, help.
Wait, how do you put up with this today?
Lexee's learning how to be, hey, listen, she's learned to speak up. I'm like, whoa. I'm like, I needed to be a better listener earlier on, and it would have saved a lot of misunderstandings and challenges, right?
I think that thing too, though, that's what helps us become better just as humans is learning these things throughout the years, but being willing to change, right? Being willing to grow and not looking at it as like an attack, rather than saying, hey, if you did this, life would sure be a whole lot better for not only us, but all the people around us if we could get better and improve upon this.
Sure. I mean, we all deserve to be happy. And if you're trying to be somebody you're not, even for your spouse, and you're not happy, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
So you got to learn how to be happy independently, and then together you can be really happy if you learn how to work together, which is not an easy thing to do.
No.
No, it's not. I mean, and just accepting the fact that you have the ability to choose to be happy is a hard thing for most. That was hard for me. That was a struggle for me for a lot of years, because I was this ornery, pissed off guy, all the time. Now I've had to, it's just through intentional conditioning over the years. But now I think genuinely I can say, like, I'm genuinely happy. But it was a conscious choice where I had to look at all these situations and go, hey, I just want to get better. Why am I walking around pissed off all the time? Like, what do I have to be mad about?
Right.
Most
nothing.
people think the circumstance is what determines that, right?
Yeah.
And it's not the circumstance. It's always comes from within.
Yeah, most people say the circumstance determines the emotion. I would say that your emotions would determine your circumstance.
100%.
For sure.
Yeah.
Especially
and if there is a circumstance that's not right, then you need to change your emotion to match what you want the circumstance to become.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you might be able to change that circumstance, but you can change what you feel about the circumstance. Therefore bringing on a better, another circumstance. Pretty cool how we got the power.
Exactly.
Outwitting the Devil again. People need to listen to that if they re-listen to it.
That book is so good.
I would say read it and listen to it, because the audiobook is pretty cool how they put it together. They did a good job.
It really
And there's a lot of stuff in the audiobook that is explained a little bit different than in the book itself. It's really good.
for sure.
It's awesome. So let me ask you this real quick before we wrap up, is the end result. So, here we are today, and by no means we're still really young and got an exciting and bright future, but it's been pretty cool up to this point. So, I guess, Kelcey, I kind of know that end result with us right now up to this point, right? But Lexee, what's your perspective so when you guys first moved to St. George, all that kind of stuff happened, and you guys end up here, and your life is the way it is that how you thought it would be? Is it different? would you have made different choices along the way? Are you glad you made the choices you made? I mean, give us some insight about your life today.
Yeah, that's a hard one because sometimes we're like, dang it, why? Like, this could have worked out so much better. I mean, because we definitely got hit. I know to take it back to the 0809, things were booming, going crazy. And then we did kind of get hit with a gut punch, right?
Financial crisis, yeah.
And we really did. So in our minds, that is not how it's supposed to go. Like we had watched all of these leaders we did exactly like they did.
Yeah.
And then it kind of didn't turn out the same way. And that was really hard to take for a bit. And there's still some days where you're like, that's not how it's supposed to go. And you have to rewind and go, it went how it went because it did. And so there's so many things that we learned through that and through other things that were out of our control, things that were in our control that we have learned that I love where I am in my life. I honestly do. I feel like I do have a purpose outside of the purpose that we had before with our business and the purpose that I have that drives me every day. I love where we're at. I have really great friendships, and I went a lot of years not having super great friendships because a lot of people would come in the business and then they would leave the business, and you wanted to stay friends, but for whatever reason, if they didn't feel comfortable around you anymore, whatever it was. And I went a lot of years without really close friends. And I feel like I have an awesome little, supportive group of friends. I think Brian and I have gone through very difficult things and are still standing. And I am so grateful for that and can see a future with him to continue to do what we're doing now. And I think the future is so exciting because all of these things just keep coming our way as we just keep saying, God, please tell us what's next. Like, help us to say yes when we need to say yes. And things just keep coming our way that are amazing. And so, I don't know, I just see it to continue on, and that if things don't go, not be so set that if things don't go exactly, that you can still roll with the punches and keep going.
Right.
But yeah, I know you talked about it on maybe the first episode of serving missions together and continue to raise our children and be wherever God wants us to be.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Love that.
Is it as good as you thought it would be? Is it better? Like this result, the life you get to live when you first moved to St. George, is it better than you imagined? Is it not as good? Is there something you would have changed?
I think it's better in ways that I didn't know that I needed. I think I pictured things a little bit different.
Yeah.
And it is different than that, but it's better in the ways that are more important, I think.
Do you think it's because your perspective changed? I agree. I think, when you're young and broke, or even old and broke, it's hard to imagine how life would be if money seriously wasn't an issue. If you could just wake up every day and have money not be the driver,
Yes.
and you have to really think, okay, what do I want to do with my life? It's hard to think from a place when you've never been there. You're always thinking about how much gasoline costs, or how much food costs, or how much rent costs, or whatever.
Yes.
So it's hard to start thinking about how great your life really would be if money wasn't an issue, right? So it's just such a different perspective. And then you get here and think, man, if everybody knew how good it was, if I would have known how good it was, and you're thinking, well, I told myself how good it was going to be. I just, I didn't have that perspective.
Yes. I think a textbook answer everybody wants to say when they've made it, right, is, it's so much better than I ever thought it was going to be. And I think it's all perspective. I don't think that ever changes. I think, I wake up some days and I'm like, it's not as good as I thought it would be. And then I'm like, fix your attitude. It's way better than, honestly, back 20 plus years ago, before, I didn't think I'd live in a neighborhood like this or have the options we have, or really be able to do what I want to do and what we want to do when we want to do it. Now, we discipline ourselves and we don't get too crazy. We're pretty conservative and stuff. We're still investing and saving and planning for a future. It's not like even though we've been blessed to do really well, we're not totally extravagant with stuff, but and that's because we do want to do, I guess we need to do more work on this ourselves, of being more clear on exactly what we want to do in 10, 15, 20 years from now, whether that be missions or whatever that is. We have work to do on that ourselves for sure.
Could be something cool in the future we could put together and help partners and spouses develop a plan.
That could be really good.
Yeah.
It'd be fun. How about you? How about you, babe?
No, never thought it would be this good. Not in a million years. I say it's by design and stuff, and I had faith that it was going to be this good, but once you arrive at this place, you look back and you go, oh my gosh, like it's way better than I ever thought it would be. And I look back and I'm so grateful we said yes to opportunities and in hardship. Like you said, pressure is a privilege. And there's so many times that we felt that pressure where like, dang, I just want to quit, or I can't handle this, or, throw in the towel and just go anyways, even though it hurts the pain. And then just looking back at our life because we made those decisions, I always say that like your decisions make your life. And I watch, I have younger siblings, and I watch my younger siblings, the decisions they make, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is going to like determine your life. Like, do I go to college and do this, or do I do this? Or, every little decision that we made, I'm just so glad and that we made the decisions we did. And I think that always having God the front of our lives has helped us to make the right decisions. Chris, who one time talked about, I wanted this property and I prayed and prayed and I wanted it so bad, and I made an offer on it and they accepted it, but it all fell through and I was so devastated and all this stuff, and I just kept faithful to God and what he wanted. And a year later, I think it was like the crash or something, and he got the same exact property for like half the cost that he originally was getting it for. And so I always just have to trust that, like when selling our business, trust that God wanted us to do that because he has bigger plans for us. And so, yeah.
Awesome.
Cool.
Well, I agree. I think it's been a fun ride up to this point, but it's only beginning. I think that's how cool it is just that we're all so young.
Yeah.
And I think we have the stories of 20 years in business and making millions of dollars and having kids and all this cool stuff in our lives together is just beginning. I mean, most people don't start a business till they're our age.
Or a career.
Yeah. And how cool is it? So I'm excited to see our future and how great it's going to be, and designed intentionally. And I think that's the crazy thing about our, futures is we have this goal in our mind, and maybe it looks a little bit different when we get there, but it sure is rewarding to know that the progress that can happen through all those hard choices. And I really think that's the value of it all, of success, or whether it's fitness or a family. It's like the reward of the person you become in the process, which during it sucks. It hurts. It's hard. No, everybody says, joy is found in the journey, not the destination. Bull crap. I never have fun during the journey. I just don't. Maybe that's I need to change my attitude. I did that Murph yesterday. At no point during that Murph was I saying, I love this. The whole thing sucked, right? But then when I got done, I went, dang, I'm glad I did it. I think everybody should do it, right? And I think that is the epitome of success in anything, right? But if I wouldn't have done that hard stuff that I really wanted to avoid, I wouldn't have been able to complete. And if I wouldn't have been able to complete it, I wouldn't be able to do it again and have something to compare to get stronger again. So,
for sure.
It's just, life's awesome. Winning is awesome.
It is.
Thank you, ladies, for being here today. And let us ask you some questions.
For sure.
Wasn't as scary as I thought.
Yeah, you made it.
We did it.
I would just say too, if anybody has any other topics or things you'd like us to cover, we're all ears for that stuff, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we got plenty of stuff we can definitely talk about, but
For sure.
You guys are doing good work. You two are.
Yep.
You're good men.
well, you too. Thank you. Yeah. You too. All right. Well, good. Till next time.